There's been a lot of talk about innovation, maybe too much talk. And a lot of that talk about innovation is about innovation in Apple and Google and Facebook and Twitter and whoever. And a lot of the talk is about innovation in the United States or innovation in Silicon Valley. And that's all fine. But what really intrigues me, what I'm really interested in, is what happens if you don't live in a big city? What happens if you don't live in the middle of Silicon Valley? What happens if you live in Tinkan Bay, or you live in Gympie, or you live where I live in Budrum? What do you do? So what I'm really interested in is this. How do you do innovation anywhere? Absolutely anywhere. There'll be a prize at the end if you can guess where this is. Too late. It's a little island off the south coast of Iceland. So it's an island off Iceland, possibly slightly remote, maybe, not sure, maybe. And possibly not the place you might think is going to be the most fertile ground for innovation. Well, we'll come back to Iceland later on. So for me, I'm really passionate about innovation, and I'm really passionate about startups, particularly. So I've started 3 companies of my own, but I've also worked with over 100 other startups, and I think I'm beginning to spot a pattern as well. And I've worked with different startups, from somebody designing handbags to somebody working with nanotechnology, so quite a spread of people. And I'm really into startups. And why? You know, a lot of my friends would say I'm kind of crazy, I shouldn't be into startups, because startups are the most risky part, and all the investors aren't touching them and all that sort of stuff. But I'm into startups because startups are really exciting. Startups are optimistic, there's lots of energy, lots of passion, everything's possible at that stage. Everything's out there, you can do things with your startup. And often for the founders, those businesses are an extension of their personality, an extension of their passion. And those founders, in many cases, are trying to make their own little dent in the universe out there. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make a bit of a difference. So that's why I like startups. And startups at an individual level are pretty important. But also startups at a community level are amazingly important as well. One recent study from the Colin Foundation in Kansas found that over the last 30 years, startups have been the net generator of jobs. On average, 3 million jobs per year. So startups, collectively, net generator of jobs. Not the big companies, not the established companies, startups. So they're kind of important for all of us. They're important for individuals and for community. But ignoring all that for a second, if you were thinking about conventional wisdom and you said, right, I'm into it, I get the idea, I'm going to start a business, where do I start? The top 4 places in the world you might think of: Silicon Valley, just beside San Francisco; London, up in England; New York, even Toronto. Those are the 4 top places in the world where you might want to start a business, according to all the research and conventional wisdom. And that's all great. They're all great places. I lived in London for about 5 years. I used to do a lot of business in Toronto and New York, and even in Silicon Valley. I've been several times. But I choose to live here. This is where I choose to live. I choose to live here because of the lifestyle, and this is where I want to be. But also, what should we do? So should we all pack our bags today? Should we all pack our bags and head off instantly saying, well, we're going to say goodbye to our husband or our wife and our kids and the cat and the dog, and we're going to head off to Silicon Valley because that's where we got to be? Well, maybe not. Maybe we actually quite like being here. So we don't have to be here, but can we learn from these places? The answer is yes, of course we can. How can we learn? Well, we can learn if we look at these places in a different way, as we can with many things in life. And these 2 guys here, who are venture capitalists from Silicon Valley, Victor Hwang and Greg Horowitz, recently wrote a book, I think it came out in February, called The Rainforest. And what the Rainforest says is Silicon Valley is not a collection of just buildings, low-rise, high-rise. It's not just a collection of buildings. It's all about people. And business, as we all know, is all about people. But what they actually said, they used the whole analogy of Silicon Valley as a rainforest. So it's a lush place, there's water running through it, it's fertile, there's diversity. In fact, it's one big ecosystem, and that's what's going on. And they said, actually, this analogy of Silicon Valley being a rainforest, it's not really an analogy. We're all humans, we're all part of a biological system. It's actually real. And so the key to understanding in that is all the elements of the rainforest, in business terms or innovation terms, the entrepreneurs, the knowledge, the wisdom, the experience, the contacts, the money, the lawyers and all that sort of stuff. All that stuff needs to come together so that they're stronger together, that they're more than the sum of the parts. And that's really this ecosystem idea, that communities across the world, often in slightly unlikely places, are actually learning from, and they're planting their own mini rainforests, and we can here as well. So let's go to Iceland. I promised to go back to Iceland, and here we are. I'll explain this in a second or two. So Iceland has got 320,000 people, 100,000 square kilometers of space. So basically, a lot of space, not many people. Not totally unlike Australia, perhaps, but smaller, but not totally unlike it. Now, an associate of mine, a guy called Matt Yallop, who's a Kiwi entrepreneur, is over in Iceland right now. He's on a very tough assignment himself. He's living in Iceland using a co-working space for 7 weeks. And he's there because, as a Kiwi entrepreneur, he wants to know how other small, remote countries, etc., can learn from Iceland. And he came up with the unusual example of Miss Iceland, who won Miss Universe 3 times. And he says the reason Iceland has won this is because they're organized. They enter, they spot talent, they nurture talent. They've got a support system around them. It's not just the individuals, but they've got a whole support system. So a funny little analogy, but he applies it to business as well. There's 4 drivers, so I call them the 4 T's going on in the world today for innovation. The first T is talent. We all know that. So the rise of more education, greater expectations, many more women in the workforce. That's one big T going on. Technology, everybody's talked about that. And also travel. So if you really want to go to Silicon Valley, of course we can. If we all want to go tomorrow, we can fly $1,400 return by Virgin, so it's not too expensive. Let's all go. It could be fun. TEDx goes to Silicon Valley, okay. But those are 3 T's. I asked hundreds of entrepreneurs, I've seen hundreds of entrepreneurs said, why have you been successful? And they said things like persistence and hard work and, that sort of thing. And I said, well, that's not very good. It doesn't give me a T. Give me something else. So they come up with tenacity, which is obviously a good one. So it's no point having all that talent. You kind of got to do something with it. So if you're one of these people, and you want to start a business, let's ask the question again, where should you base that business with knowing the 4 T's? Well, the answer, according to a Danish study, about 10,000 businesses found that the most successful of those 10,000 businesses were businesses started in the hometown or the home community of their founder. Why? Because they've got trust, they've got networks, they've got reputation, they know where to find things. So actually for them, they were saying, you've got the home community advantage. So that's all good, but you actually need people around you. And you might need, like Paul Graham, who wrote How to Be Silicon Valley, says you might need 30 people around you to create it. And again, that's all fine, but you actually need more than just people, as we're getting to today. You need a community, and you need things like a network. So you need something like the REN in New Hampshire in New England in the US, which is the Women's Rural Entrepreneurial Network, or the Entrepreneurial Exchange in Scotland. You need those type of groups as well as individuals. So today we all talk lots about all this, technology that, and that's all fine. We talk about business in an online world, but do we actually know what's going on just around the corner, right? So instead of talking all this jargon and all this nonsense about, we've got cutting-edge technology, and here it goes. Well, you might actually be better off, hold on, go back. Will I go back? Yeah. You might actually be better off talking to the guy next door mowing their lawn and cutting their grass. And, thinking creatively might mean going to your local art gallery. And going to the market might actually mean going to the market and speaking to a few people and seeing what's going on. In this example, go back one. In this example, I've got 3 friends who all live around Udalo. So most of you know it's sort of a country area on the hinterland of the Sunshine Coast. One of them does software for Toyota. Another does software for the financial markets in New York and London. He's the most brainy guy you ever meet. I have no idea what he does, but he's very brainy. And another runs an online website recruiting people for yachts and sailing crews. All 3 of those people are doing amazing things, but they're sort of tucked behind this hill or they're around this bend, and they don't actually know each other. And they're all little hidden treasures, but they don't know each other. But luckily I knew them, so got them all out to lunch. And they pretty instantly see the value of talking to each other, learning from each other, They've all got complementary skills, so you always need in business a lead entrepreneur, finance, marketing, sales, operations. And we all know that nobody's perfect. Nobody can have all those skills, but a team can have those skills. So you've got to get people talking and begin to get into those networks. And that Women's Rural Entrepreneurial Network I mentioned, they started in 1994 with 12 members. 12. Today they've got 1,100. So start somewhere. It's not just about the people, it's also about the community level. So back to Iceland to finish up. This is the island off the south coast of Iceland. And guess whose house that little speck is? It's Bjork. It's Bjork. Bjork is talented. It's a T. Here's the T clue. Talented. She's got a good team. She has technology to put her music out to the world. She's sold millions of albums. And she's certainly got tenacity, right? Who gave her this house? The people of Iceland gave her this house. This was a gift because they said, thank you for putting Iceland on the map. Thank you for getting us noticed. So the moral here, don't just have great entrepreneurs, celebrate them. Celebrate the success of those entrepreneurs and support them. And even if you want to, give them a free house. Okay, thank you.